Welcome to the Pelican Brief with your host, David Tatman.
Welcome to the Pelican Brief. I am your host, David Tatman. I want to thank everybody for listening. We have some really cool things going on with our podcast. Obviously, for those of you who are new, our podcast covers government in Louisiana, the legislature, the executive branch, the courts, everything that has to do with entities that impact our lives. And so we like to give you the inside story. I am a longtime government relations professional, and this is our attempt to bring you inside information on what's happening in Baton Rouge. So the 2024 regular session of the Louisiana Legislature is underway. This is a session of general jurisdiction, which is what we have during even-numbered years. We can speak almost unlimitedly about the general jurisdiction bills during these sessions. It's a longer session. You have 85 days to conduct 60 days of business. So there is going to be a lot of things going on in this session. So we'll just talk about a few. I think everyone that I know is impacted by our insurance markets in Louisiana. That is going to be a big issue during the session because during the elections, it was always polled as one of the most significant issues facing Louisiana citizens and Louisiana voters. So I think you're going to see a lot of bills that are going to try to bring Louisiana in line with what other states are doing. Many of the companies that write in other states don't write in Louisiana because of our environment, our litigious environment, our sort of lottery-minded environment. And so one of the things that you're going to see a lot of bills on is bills that seek to make Louisiana more like the rest of the country. Quick story, Nationwide Insurance, you see their ads all the time about, kind of quirky little commercials about Nationwide, we're on your side. They're not on your side in Louisiana. They don't write here. And there's a reason why they don't write here. And so mainly because we're out of step with the rest of the country. And so think about this in a couple of terms. You have the issue of insurance being incredibly expensive, right? Everyone who's received a homeowner's renewal has seen rates rise. You've seen rates rise with your automobile insurance. And if you're in a flood zone, you've seen rates rise in the flood arena. And this is impacting every element of the economy. Realtors can't sell houses if they can't insure them. Banks can't loan money if they can't insure them. And so this is a recipe for disaster, and we've got to do something to bring Louisiana in line with the rest of the country. So not only do we have an issue with affordability in the state of Louisiana, so the rates are so high it's very difficult to be able to have the money to pay for them, but we have a major availability issue. We do not have enough markets for our insurance market broadly to be competitive, and so there are a number of things that we will see in the legislature that will seek to address those issues. So again, we're outliers in so many ways. Let's talk about one of those outliers. So in Louisiana, we have what in the industry would be referred to as the 3-year rule. And so it's actually the 3-year and 1-day rule. So once you've received your 4th renewal and you are covered, the state of Louisiana has a law that says that an insurance company can't drop you or change your deductible except for in very remote situations. Material change in risk. There's a couple of other issues out there that you can, but it's very difficult for an insurer to non-renew a policy that's been on the books for 3 years and 1 day, or the 4th renewal. We are the only state in the nation, and as far as we know, we are the only jurisdiction in the world that has such a rule. The 3-year rule is it basically turns 1-year contracts into lifetime contracts, and that troubles insurance companies. If an insurer wants to write in Louisiana, they are afraid to come in and write because they will be stuck on that business for a long time. So there are a couple of bills out there. We don't know which one's going to move, but generally speaking, the idea is to grandfather everyone that has the 3-year rule applied to them, and so no one would have a taking, no one would lose the coverage that they have, and then it would also allow the insurance companies to change deductibles or to raise deductibles, which could in turn end up either reducing your insurance premium overall or preventing a higher increase. And then perhaps some provision that allows the insurance companies to non-renew a very small percentage of their policies each year. So that, again, will not put us in line with the rest of the country, but it will be a big step forward. Again, no jurisdiction in the world that we know of has this rule. So there are some other bills that would make a big difference. One of them is a bill that's going to be referred to as fair claims handling. Louisiana law has some conflicts which set the stage for lawsuits. There are different parts of the statutes that conflict each other, so that legislation would clearly outline the process by which claims were handled to prevent lawsuits and to make, again, Louisiana in line with what a lot of other states do. Texas has a model. Florida has a model. They're looking at trying to address some of those issues. There are many more issues on insurance, and we will dive down in future episodes of the Pelican Brief into those specific issues when they are debated in the legislature. We may even bring a guest in to come in and talk to us about what the impact of these bills could have on our markets in Louisiana. One of the other big issues that we're going to see in the regular session are education issues. You're going to see a lot. Some of the main ones are the education savings accounts. This has been done in other states. In Arizona, think of it as like vouchers on steroids where the dollars follow the child. It would establish education savings accounts and basically provide that essentially education dollars follow the student. And so something that we'll keep an eye on, because this will certainly have a larger impact on public schools, private schools, and charter schools. So we'll look at that very closely. So teacher pay will also be discussed. Bessie, the Board of Elementary and Secondary Education, has suggested that the legislature give $2,000 stipends in lieu of raises. This will cost the state around $200 million. I have to say this because this is the truth, but stipends aren't raises. So you get the $2,000 stipend, but if next year the state decides not to give it, you get a $2,000 cut in your overall earnings. Stipends aren't raises. And being the husband of a 33-year educator, this is probably, we need to treat our teachers better, and they deserve raises, not stipends. So we'll take a look at that. Right now, that's what we have. You will. There's also going to be some movement to try to focus more dollars on individual tutoring services. That is to go in and help students who may be doing really well in other areas, but say maybe having trouble with math or just science, to be able to have some tutoring services that would help them in their educational journey and help them move along through the education process. You're also going to see some issues during the state legislative session. I'm going to call it Crime 2.0 because we just had a special session of the legislature focused on crime, but there are a couple of bills that we've already seen. We could see some more, but in essence, the ones that we've seen so far are bills that would send more juveniles to adult courts and expand the list of offenses where juveniles can be prosecuted as adults in court. And so I think you're going to see a number of issues. I know there is a bill dealing with the sexual assault. So you're going to continue to see crime, in the conversation, because no one thinks that what we did in the crime session was everything that needs to be done. Some think what we did was wrong, but we're going to see, and the legislature is going to be able to pivot as we move along. There are some other issues that could become pretty big. Some of you may have heard about the Alabama court decision relative to embryos, human embryos, and that the court ruled that in a wrongful death lawsuit, that embryos are considered to be individuals or humans. And so this has had a chilling effect on in vitro fertilization efforts in the state. It's kind of created a very a pretty big issue relative to those operations and what they can and can't do. You're going to see some legislation to address that in Louisiana law. Remember, that's an Alabama case. It does not affect Louisiana, but I think Louisiana wants to get out in front of it. So here's where I go in and just say, all right, here's a couple of other bills that are out there that, I like to try to have some fun with. One would require that the 10 Commandments be posted in all public schools. So when you walk into a public school, that they would be required to post the 10 Commandments. And it doesn't say, how or what, but we'll see how that goes. Vaccinations will continue to be a big issue in the legislature, both from an education standpoint in terms of parent disclosure and transparency, and other issues related to vaccinations and requirements thereof. So watch that. We'll continue to have those conversations. There is a bill that provides for further term limitations for governors. Right now, it's 2 consecutive terms. So, for example, John Bel Edwards could come back and run for governor in the next term, because it currently, the law provides that you can't run for 2 consecutive terms. It's actually more than a term and a half, but that's just a technical piece. But that is a bill that would prevent any former governor from running for governor again once they've served 2 terms. And then there will be some bills on pronouns in schools, parental approval of what someone is called in school. There will be bills that will be filed about recognition of marriages from other states, and that would be, it looks like, same-sex marriage issues related to that. There's going to be some legislation on direct shipment of wine. It has been an issue that has come up in several legislative sessions right now. There are pretty strict limitations on the direct shipment of wine. You can do it, but it's limited, and you're going to see some loosening up of that. Another bill which is pretty significant, although I'm not sure you're going to see a lot of press cover it, but I think we've seen some polling that says that most people in Louisiana believe that when you buy a ticket to an event, a concert, Rolling Stones concert, an LSU game, a Saints game, whatever, that you own the ticket. You think that when you buy it, so when you go online and you buy that ticket, you think you own it. But there are people out there, including the 800-pound gorilla, that out there, I'm not going to name them, but their name starts with ticket something. And they would say, no, you don't own it. It's a licensing agreement. And so they really have control over your ticket. Now, how do they use that? They force you to keep it on their platform if you want to sell it. There is legislation out there that would allow you to have complete control of your ticket. And I think the vast majority of people in Louisiana would want that, but they don't know about it. And so that bill was filed last year, made it through one body, the House of Representatives, and got hung up in the Senate. and there were a slew of lobbyists that were hired to oppose it. They don't want you to own your ticket. So that's something really important to keep an eye on that you won't see in the paper or on the news reports. So Supreme Court redistricting, which we saw in the first legislative session, the first special session, is back on the agenda. We don't know exactly, we've seen some bills, but we don't know exactly what will happen because the last time that was on the agenda, it was a hard stop in the Senate. So there'll be some discussion. It really has to do with reapportionment and redistricting and adding a majority-minority seat. The real question is where is it added and who is made whole on that. There are some parishes that are cut up in different pieces that want to be made whole in that conversation, and so some legislators support it, some are against it. So that's a recap of what we think are the big issues during the legislative session. We want to, again, reiterate that we now have our own website, which is really cool, pelicanbrief.com. That's pelicanbriefpodcast.com. We also are on all of the social media platforms. That's at Pelican Brief 225. So Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. And if you want to go to YouTube and watch this, which could be painful because you've got to look at me, that is the YouTube handle is at the Pelican Brief 225. So subscribe, like, and share. The way we don't have advertisers, so we don't pay money to expand our show. So if you know anybody who's nerd enough to listen to this stuff or interested in it, please send them a link to our show. Get them to subscribe, to like, and share. We really want your feedback. So whether you want to do that on social media, criticize us, challenge us, that's what we want. We want this to be an ongoing conversation. Email us if you have a good take. We'll mention it on our show. If you have a great take, you're likely to be an invited guest to the show, so please do. And then check out our blog. We're going to post a weekly blog to really ask some tough questions on the subject matter. And remember, the questions we ask don't show a particular side of where we are on anything, but we want to have an open discussion without all of the noise and all of the mainstream media garbage. So again, like, subscribe, and share. We look forward to being with you on our next episode. And until then, I am David Tatman, and we are the Pelican Brief.
The Pelican Brief is an off-script production.